astrologer, and today I am with the Venus Wisdom on a Venus Day. And for those of you who do not know me, I'm an astrologer, a holistic health practitioner, aromatherapist, and independent researcher in philosophy of medicine and philosophy of science. Um, I'm Talishir on Twitter, Shali Outlet on Instagram, and you can follow and subscribe this channel if you want to know more from me. And I do give readings. These are $50 for a reading, and since it's donation-based Friday, I do have donation-based readings. So if it is a Friday, you can check me on Twitter if I have donation-based reading, and you can submit or write to me. So that's a possibility. These are the ways to work with me right now. I am also doing the Spirit of Matter podcast, where I'm delving into stuff like cosmology, philosophy, theosophy sometimes, and of course astrology, healing and spirituality. And now, without further ado, so today we are with the Venus in Scorpio. Venus is in 14 degrees Scorpio, she passed Ketu, and we are in between eclipses. Some of you might already feel the power of Venus. This is a Venus day. Oh, already Saturn hour. I started actually on a moon hour, but it's already a Saturn hour. And so, Venus in Scorpio. Venus is ruling the opposite signs to the signs ruled by Mars. And Mars, of course, is ruling Scorpio. So in many ways, she is an antithesis to the sign that she's in. And so the way to operate, you might think, is synthesis. But synthesis is a dialectic process of progress. And Venus is ruling our values, our relationships, our finances, in the way that is joint, the win-win relationships, what we give and receive, give relationships, the places where, on the one hand, it's very important to be fair. On the other hand, it is also important to serve your own interest, otherwise you can't be fair. And so Venus rules Taurus, that is also sensual pleasure, but also Libra, that is the scales. And Venus is ruling Friday, and she's also ruling Muslim religion, that consider Friday is a holy day. Scorpio. So Scorpio is actually ruled by Mars, and Scorpio is a water sign. It is, while Venus rules over land and air, basically earth and air signs that are Venusian. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. The association is still water penetrate deep, and therefore we understand the association of water. For those of you who are aware of the martial arts, think about Taoism, Lao Tzu's obsession with being like water, or I guess obsession is not the right word here, but the flexibility of water, no effort, adaptability, being liquid. And partially air is liquid, so that's something water and air can have in common. But the Mars is about protecting something. It is about protecting Mars. You know, people know Mars is aggressive, is this, is war, is that, and so true. Mars is aggressive because Mars sets a boundary. Mars is protective of something. Okay? And it is a master of the martials in Scorpio. It is the type of martials that are watery. that are more psychological, internal, okay, both external and internal, but the internal martials where you meditate a lot, you meditate also through movement, you are very strategic, you work on attachment issues, okay, not to be attached to an outcome is in many cases the very difficult thing to implement for any scorpionic being. And because Scorpio rules also what is hidden, the hidden knowledge, and the psyche and the reproductive system. So if it begins to sound Venusian to you, you're right. The extreme Mars is Venus. The extreme Venus, morning star Venus, is more extroverted. It's even more Martian. Venus is also the goddess of war, not just of love. So it's not like Venus and Mars don't have anything in common. They complement each other. And yet, the domain of Scorpio is the antithesis to the domain of Venus. Just as the domain of Aries is the antithesis to the domain of Venus in a Libra. And so Venus is considered fallen, it's considered detriment. And you pardon me, I never remember which, when it's ruling two signs, I never remember which one is the fall, like complete fall, and which is just like the other detriment, if that's the right word. But it is important to note that it's this Aries and Scorpio are the signs Venus feels unhappy in. I believe Aries is the one where she feels fallen because it's both quick and impulsive, and at least the water sign is more strategic. And so I believe Venus is fallen in Aries, but also she's in detriment in Scorpio. Something interesting is that Scorpio rules also modernly psychoanalysis and magic. And today's wisdom, Venus wisdom on a Venus day, I would actually want to make a couple of connections. Okay, the origins of psychoanalysis, the founding fathers of psychoanalysis, some of them at least had education. What with Jung is completely astrology, but also in magic and in theosophy. And if we take the context of magic and theosophy, it's very much rooted in pre-Abrahamic religions. I.e., if you go to, let's say, Hinduism, Buddhism, a person would worship this god on that day. And even today, every planet today is the planet of Venus. Friday is ruled by Venus. And so today is the time for the certain Venus rituals. Of course, Venus is fallen, so you would have to consider what and how. But this is the day you would light a candle for Venus if you're doing like very light invocation. And this context where people would, let's say, you would go to an astrologer or you would go to an exorcist or to a guru, and they would tell you, oh, do this mantra on this day, worship this god, put this thing on this altar. And so they would direct you to create to correct the relationships that need remediation in your life. And then you would, let's say, work with Inanna from Akkad, and you would get you would get knowledge, wisdom, feelings, change, transformation. Or then you would work, if it's a Mars thing, with Archangel Michael. And then you would get your transformation and, or, Jupiter, Zeus. Also Archangel Raphael in a sense. And each one of these deities, these planetary deities, these um, pagan. I don't like the word pagan because it was mainly used as non-Abrahamic, and I don't think it is correct. It's just there's so many religions that are based on multiple deities, pantheism, and so on and so forth. On a psychological, emotional level, you would develop different relationships with different gods, and you would consult maybe the astrologer or maybe the guru to tell you of what ritual and what practice, but you would do the practice. You would do the practice with these gods. It's on you, and you would have varied relationships out of which you would learn about yourself. And now, what happens when we come to psychoanalysis? We have a patient and a therapist, psychoanalysis. And the essence of psychoanalysis is to explore the nature of the relationship between the patient and the therapist, and be aware of, the therapist has to be aware of what they are responding to, with the formation of psychotherapy, what they are responding to and what they are projecting on the patient, and be very observant so that they can get at the root of the issue, and they can, as much as possible, not really isolate, but find the patterns of behavior of the person in front of them, so that they can reflect that and bring that into awareness of the patient. The idea is superb. The idea that the person can do, to say, okay, if this comes in front of me, the therapist is probably coming up in more relationships in your life, if not all the main relationships in your life. And it's not for no reason that I open today with an astrological chart. Why? First of all, before I go to the chart, if the origin of learning from relationships is practicing with different deities and doing your own altars and your own donations and correcting your relationships with the planets, with the deities, the previous assumption is that if you have an issue with Venus, then yes, it can manifest in different relationships, but it doesn't manifest in every relationship in the same way. And it doesn't mean that you have an issues with the moon. So you can have an issue with the woman, but you don't necessarily have an issue with your mother. You can have an issue with the young maiden that you need to correct, but you don't necessarily have an issue with being a caregiver. And this is something that is the amount that it is accounted to in a single patient-therapist relationship is very, very limited. So even before I looked at astrology and the construct of astrology, we understand that the context within the insight of psychoanalysis, of patterns of behavior, of psychological, emotional, mental patterns, and you can, if you are an astrologer and you're already here, and of Mercury, Moon, Venus, Sun, Jupiter, you're already here in the different planets, in the different even bodies of the person, okay, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, the physical, and so on and so forth. and how they interrelate with the planets and so on and so forth. So it's very intricate relation. It's a lot more holistic. Uh, and so already we are losing a lot of context. And we are simplifying and reducing something that forces us to lose a lot of intricacy and a lot of complexity. And it may, in many cases, cause misdiagnosis, even if the therapist is very skilled and very humane. It may cause a situation where you believe that the patient is one thing because the things that came up with you as the therapist came up, but they're relevant to you and maybe to some other relationships that are similar. And now it's time to do astrology. Scorpio modernly is not only ruled by Mars, which in itself is a question as to how much something that is ruled by Mars, whose job is to protect, whose job is to set the boundary, but whose job is also to penetrate and to make love, how much is a person whose profession is also ruled by the moon, but also ruled by Mars, is fit to be in a room with one person and offer them insight into who that other person is. It's already problematic. It's already very centralized. It's already very dangerous. Okay, it's very much Scorpio. It's walking on the edge. But who are the people who turn to the service of therapy? And a lot of people in Venus Scorpio is basically healing relationships, right? Transformative relationships. But who are the people who turn to help? It's not the people who seek to walk on edges. And even if they do have this pattern, it's not always coming out, and it's going to come out with the patient, but it's just people who look to correct things in their lives, in their relationships. So the potency is to touch the edge together, but touching edges also has a lot of cases where not everybody who climbs the mountain reaches the mountain, right? And so while it's very important to reduce stigma around a person needing assistance or needing help in psychological crisis or financial crisis or any crisis that affects the soul. We don't want to have stigma around the need to go and seek healing. At the same time, we also don't want to create an image that healing is somehow simple and safe. Venus in Scorpio, even when it doesn't go to the psychotherapy room as either the patient or the psychoanalyst, she operates in a very similar way to psychoanalysis relationships. Seeking the core, seeking transformation, seeking the pattern, oftentimes missing the point that what comes up with you, especially if you trigger the person and they have to walk on eggshells with you, because you try to poke at their psyche to transform something, because you're ruled by Mars. This is what Mars does. It looks for broken things to fix. Okay? If Virgo seeks for things that are not perfect to improve them, and you can see how problematic that can be in relationships, Mars is seeking for broken things to fix. It wants to protect, it wants to transform, it wants to set a boundary, it wants to teach you to set a boundary, and that already is a big mess. This is not the domain of Venus. The domain of Venus is pleasure, healthy boundaries, win-win. It's not trying to see what are your weaknesses and poke them so that you will get stronger. and invincible in a fight. Okay? And so the Venus in Scorpio can be very lost and confused and gaslighted and disturbed and very much not in her domain. And, and not only that, if that Venus will look for an easier territory like, a Taurus, a Libra, she will find ease. And so the entire work of that, whoever placed the Martian psychoanalysis person, and it can be both, in any dynamic that is Venus Scorpio, their whole attempt to find your weaknesses and provoke them so that you will get stronger, so that you will get transformed, and almost unconsciously doing that or consciously doing that, and needing that to form intimacy, and therefore finding it difficult to trust because they also expect it in a way to be done to them. And so your partner is like your greatest enemy, and you become the greatest enemy to yourself, because you want to be invincible. It's like the relationship becomes a battle. And whoever partakes in that might be doing an entire deep psychoanalysis job for no good, because they're not really curing anything. They're not really healing anything. They're not addressing what needs to be addressed, and that. And why am I looking at an astrological chart? In the astrological chart, we have the houses that denote certain type of relationships that we have. The seventh is the person we are, person to person. The ninth is the guru, but also the teacher, but also God, or however we perceive God. Every planet is a relationship, okay, in itself. And so let's say if we have Venus in Scorpio natally, we need to think about, working with how do we adjoin the energies of Venus and Mars and the relevant archetypes in a way that is actually contributing rather than, damaging the psyche for no reason. We have the 10th house, which is an authority figure, a boss, a father. We have the 11th, that is our colleagues. And as you can see, of course, there is the concept of rulership. Of course, for some people, if the ruler in the 11th is in the 7th, then maybe going to sitting one-on-one with the person might help you to reach insights as to relationships with your colleague, but not necessarily. Each house bears different relationships. The 5th is our children, for example. The 3rd is our siblings or our neighbors, okay, closer friends. And each house is in a different sign, ruled by a different planet. This means that to correct that house, you need to work with the elements that are relevant to that house. Sometimes you will have certain connections in your chart where if you go to see, a coach or a therapist or a guru, they can give you insights, and because of the relations you have in your own chart between the relevant houses where you have a problem, and they're supported by the 7th house and by Mars and Pluto and by Scorpio, Sometimes eighth house because it's shared energy and shared resources, and relationships are shared energies. But eighth house is not everything. You might be going into a deep dive in the ocean where you really only need a cup of water. Um, Now, when Venus is traveling through Scorpio, it's a good time to reflect on actually those relationships that we need to let go of because they are unnecessarily. She's also with Ketu. And this, if she was with Rahu, it would be a different talk, but now she's with Ketu. Um, it's those relationships that you usually need to let go of because you dig in too deep into your soul for no reason. People try to psychoanalyze each other and transform each other and protect the weak when there is no weak, or assist in all the patterns that can happen of care and control, but also of penetration and control, because it is Mars, it's not the moon. It's not care and control so much as penetration and control, to penetrate each other's psyche. And so, needless penetration, literally needless penetration, you might be letting go of your therapist. You might be letting go of your perception of therapy, depending on what house Scorpio is for you. So if it is the first house, you might be letting go of certain parts of your personal path. First of all, you might be letting go of you a bit. You might be focusing less on trying to transform and improve and be the best version of yourself and heal and whatnot and rise from the ashes. And what is the other pole? It's Taurus, to live your daily life. But it would be easier when Venus would move out there, because now the ruler of your seventh is in your first with Ketu. Okay. There's a certain aspect of you that you need to let go in order to either maintain a relationship, but usually, with the first house, maybe it is to let go of certain aspects of yourself that are necessary to maintain a healthy relationship or to form one. In the second house, it can be you're finally getting a chance to let go of certain ways you perceived yourself, that your self-value was relying on certain things that you need to let go of. Or maybe you can finally regain your self-value because you need to let go of what is keeping you from loving yourself, basically, because it's hurting your investments and it's hurting your ability to make money. You're not as terrible as you think you are, but also you don't have to dig that deeply. You need to adopt a bit of simplicity and let go of a lot of certain scorpionic energies in your life, which is a lot easier said than done. You need to find a way to still maintain that which is scorpionic for you in a way that is constructive to your sense of self-value. If it is in your third house, this might be an issue you're having. Some relatives, some siblings, some neighbors even, that you need to set a boundary there. You may have been getting too deep and intimate, and because it is Ketu, this was your comfort zone. You may have tended to tend with these relationships in a way that is to psychoanalyze each other, and now it is time to see that you have been a part and partaken in mutual gaslighting, deceit, and projection. Not necessarily intended, but this is just not the way to go about this relationship. It needs more simplicity. It needs to let go, especially with women, or you may be the woman that needs to let go. If it is the fourth house, this is your domestic life. This is your house. Yes, you might lose a caregiver, but also you might be considering moving to another house, okay, in the physical. But you will need to let go of certain ideas, of certain romanticized views of relationships and love within a domestic realm. so that you will have healthy life in your home or homeland. If it is the fifth, then we are talking about either your children, you as a child, or the people you meet when you are either dating for romance, the romance phase. And so you might have an over analyzed, you might tend to psychoanalyze your sexual partners or your children, and you might tend to go overboard with that because you seek that deep intimacy, the deep penetration. You know, if it is your child, you're scorpionic enough to understand that this is not leading anywhere. Um, so that is the domain that you may experience. Of course, you might also be letting one of the houses that can lead to addiction. You might be letting go of certain addictions thanks to your changing your relationship with matters of this house. Okay, joy, fun, leisure, risk-taking, children, romance. Um, if it is the sixth house, it's open enemies, your workplace, or your pets. And well, with pets, it might be less the point. Or if, of course, you might lose a pet if you have like a female pet that is represented by this. Yes, it can happen. Not necessarily, or adopt one. You know, or you may decide that you want a pet. But also, if it's like a therapy dog, then you need to, you know, don't throw your eggs into one basket. This is not a dog that's going to save your life, or you his. Maybe you adopt a dog and you think that you're going to save their lives and it's going to contribute to your sense of well-being. Okay, get real. It's a dog. It's going to do great for you, but you still need to have, you know, more simple living type of things that aid your mental health, like, you know, having your own house, having your own space, or having a place to retreat to, because the Taurus is the polarity, is the 12th house. You might need a place to retreat to, and you think, oh, I will adopt a pet and I will take care of them, and they, you know, they will save me and I will save them. This is very much Venus Scorpio, this the Scorpionic, you know, we will save each other's lives. And then you find out that they walk after you to the bathroom and then they want to sleep with you, and you cannot even self-pleasure because they're, you know, in bed that intimately with you, and you need to walk them 3 times a day, and oh, you don't have a yard, and your house is not as big as you thought, and oh, you really need also a place to retreat to. So you might be letting go of a certain idea that you had if it was a pet, but it can also be the people you work with day to day. You might, you know, or and also romanticized relationship with enemies. You might be too obsessed about it. You're thinking, I don't know, you will get this job because this person tells you that you can't, and you will do everything, and they will see, and you will revenge. And then you find out that you don't even like what you got because of this attitude and this romanticized, you know, view of the enmity that's going to give you the velour you seek at the workplace or whatnot. Or it's your employees, which can get into all kinds of creepy stuff. You know, hopefully you're not the creep. Um, and and realize that there are certain things that just need to go. Seventh house, one-to-one relationship. This is not only your spouse, it can be the neighbor in front of you, anyone you sit with. It can also be the therapist, especially if there are connections with the 9th, 8th, and 12th and 7th house. And so you might be realizing that those connections are of the past because it is get with something you're letting go of, and the reason you're letting go of has to do with something scorpionic. They were too much delving, maybe it served a purpose to delve into your psyche and find out certain patterns that you have, and you healed. But what happened when you healed? This is the dark side.
unless a Scorpionic or Martian is, but especially Scorpionic because it's water and it's care and needless penetration. Um, Mars likes broken things to fix. So what happens when something is fixed? Okay, think about it. If you have a child that likes to fix broken stuff and they fixed it, and you don't give them something new to fix, what do you tell them? Well, break it and fix it again because this is now imagine that in the seventh house. That's something that might happen. Okay, the urge to fix something is so great that is also the urge to break things. Whatever is in front of you, you break. If it's a bad pattern, you break the bad pattern. If the person is whole and healed, you really need to find a way to remedy this. Okay, so if it is one-on-one relationship like your spouse, and it can be, it can be divorce. Yes, it can be leading to divorce or realization that divorce has to take place. But normally, let's say just Venus in Scorpio and not Ketu, I would say this is where you always need to keep this person busy in fixing something and let that something not be you. Say you need help for something, give them a job that that's something that you're not doing all that well, but find something new to study with them, maybe something that you're not so good at, or give them a job, to carry your bags or to fix your car, and you will find out that things around this person will tend to get broken because they tend to need to fix things. If you apply to that and you allow for that to be, and you find ways to, to keep bringing broken things to them, you can actually renovate old furniture sometimes, especially if you have to, not necessarily the part where you decorate, but the part where you cut and where you break and where you reinstall. So find if it has a connection with Saturn, find some old thing that somebody threw, and then give your spouse to fix that if they enjoy it. Hopefully they do, because otherwise you are going to be the broken table. and that is the difficulty with Venus Scorpio. The potency is that they can get at the core thing and transform it, but it has to be done with, it has to be used. This is why Mars is considered malefic, okay? It's not that it's not useful, it's extremely useful, but you need to give it, to assign it. For example, for me in my house, I have some broken washing machine that I put my altar of Mars next to it because my Mars likes broken things. And now Mars is traveling through my 4th house. 8th house, this especially can be not only therapist, but also your accountant, also someone you consult with concerning insurance, banking, or someone you have shared resources with, which can also be a partner, and you need to let go of this partnership or of something in this partnership. If you meet someone new, relevant to all the houses, if you meet someone new at this time, my best advice to you is try as quickly as you can, see what is needed to fix so that you will no longer need this person. Because you came to each other's life to fix something and let go of each other. With Keto, this is the fact. If it's a new lover, I saved you a reading. 9th house. 9th house, you are letting go of certain views that you had, certain worldviews that you had no longer outdated. Okay, for me, I have Scorpio in the 9th house, and I've been thinking about the origins of psychoanalysis and how, oh my gosh, like, of course you cannot do this in one room with the person, even if two people, even if the therapist is the most, evolved, professional, caring, experienced human being in the world. It just can't replace the billion relationships. And no, they don't necessarily have the access to the thing that changes everything in all of your relationships. So I've been letting go of some views of psychotherapy and psychoanalysis and the limitations that psychoanalysis has to offer to people as a profession. In general, you might be letting go of some old, outdated religious view or religious dogmas. Maybe, you've been ashamed of your sexuality, or you have been in Kundalini awakening spiritual religions, and you see that sometimes these guys are just not ethical and it's just needless penetration. You don't have to have sex with all the gods in the world. Sometimes it's just not, and that's that. In the 10th house, of course, there are certain traveling. Maybe you're letting go. Maybe you're also even finishing a degree because you could be achieving something and therefore letting go of the academia because or choose to study something new. But first, this is the part of letting something go. Or a place that you used to travel to, you wanted to travel to, you will need to change plans, or you will travel to that place, but this is a place that you will visit there, you will have your spiritual experience, and then you will travel on to other places. Or your relationships with someone abroad that you need to let go. If it's a long distance relationship, starting now, it's starting to be finished. And don't drag it. Use the scorpionic zero dragging it thing, because Scorpio can either drag things onto forever and then cut it at once, or they can see something from the get-go that is not good and then they can use to do. Don't even get into it, right? Don't get a healthy head into a sick bed. That's just that, if you can. 10th house. The Venus Scorpio with Ketu is, it might have to do with your reputation. It can be your boss, your working environment. You're either letting go, you could be letting go of a job or a position, an old position, or if you're getting a new position now, it is with the Ketu thing. It's not your future. There are things that you might need to go through, but please do not hang on too tightly to having to go through things, because that may be the difficulty of letting go. When you actually need to push forward, and use the Martian ability of actually being more linear and okay, this is a boundary, it's cut. This could also be your public figure. If you have the midheaven, then this could be a public figure. And there can be a relationship that negatively impacts your reputation, a loss of reputation due to feminine figures. If you are yourself a feminine figure, maybe you're viewed badly because of an old relationship, or a relationship that you meet right now as something that is not it's just not okay. And this can happen in the workplace or with the boss, then especially not. Especially not with this Ketu, okay? If you have the ruler of your relationship, the ruler of your 7th, or Jupiter or Venus in the 10th, yes, you might be of the people who marry their boss and everything is fine, that they don't have, a sick relationship that you read about in the news. But with Ketu, Ketu is what we need to let go of. Release a bit. So it's like we need to assimilate the understanding of what's happening there and release. 11th house, colleagues, dreams, goals, but also this is one of the houses of investments. If you have been doing, some type of, scorpionic investments, maybe hidden investments, or crowdfunding, or secret crowdfunding, or I don't know what, or you have an opportunity to do that, don't don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is not. You meet new colleagues now. This is not. Or you might be experiencing excess troubles in that field, like people Like literally can be people are against you, or people romanticize you, or people obsess about you, or you obsess about someone, and it's just not useful. But because it's one of the public houses, then you could have rumors being spread around about you, or you can have a new person coming into your life that could spread these rumors about you. Um, and yeah, mm, not favoring. If it is the 12th house, so you could find yourself in a retreat or in a more isolated place, or again, it's one because it's one of the rules of what you didn't know that you didn't know. This could be also psychotherapy in a way, but don't seek therapy now. Wait for the skies to turn better, because this Venus in your 12th is somebody that knows about your libido what you don't know that you don't know, and belongs to the type of people you need to release from your life for scorpionic reasons. I don't think it needs further explanation of how devastating this is. The type of things that, in the good case we read about it in the news. In the bad case, we don't even read about it in the news, and the person suffers for all their life because they've been abused by a hidden enemy that was, could be their therapist or lover or whatnot. This is not the type of. There are Venus in the 12th house that can be even, either hidden affairs that are somehow on the verge of ethical, or secret affairs due to many reasons, or secret marriages if there are 12th 7th, but if it's well aspected, it's like it's not the end of the world. There are Venus, it's also the house that rules our secret bed pleasures, but when Venus, in Scorpio, not so. But if you have it, if it's like a Venus return, then this is the year that you will be letting go of your hidden enemies that are, romantic lovers that are not in your best favor, or that connect you with being addicted to something, or that you have to unconditionally give love to, but in a way that drains you and strays you from your path, because you can be giving love unconditionally, and this can be a lesson about loving unconditionally. This happens with Venus in the 12th house, and it can be actually something that enables you to love and to let go, and to accept it as thanks you that I felt these feelings, and now I'm looking for someone who I can actually have win-win relationship with. But if it is with Ketu, it does tell me that this is not the type of experience you would enjoy. Even, in the best of aspects, and how is Venus aspected, like my worst troubles. Right now, it's not like my worst troubles, but, it's not doing good. It's applying to opposite Uranus, which is annoying because it's going to be very exciting for you, but no. It's like, oh, it's so exciting. Yeah. No. And it also applies to square Saturn, which means that getting to receive love and receive affection is going to be a drag, an ongoing drag. And I analyzed the chart of the United States where there is a natal Saturn square Jupiter and Venus, and I was like, I just came up with the idea that also nation might have a good election, and then decide to have a new declaration of independence and change the flag and everything to get out of those aspects that are harsh, because if it's in a country, then it's the women in the country, the children in the country, and so on and so forth. So absolutely not. Relationships, absolutely not. If you get into one, as quickly as you can, try to see what is necessary for you to do to leave that out of your life. Okay. I think I covered all the houses for this, I mainly dealt on relationships. I touched a bit on finances. Not the time for it's time for letting go of some investments. That yes is. If this is in your investment houses, it's time to let go of some investments. Um, but I'm not a financial advisor, so don't don't expect to get anything more specific, and don't expect that to necessarily be true to you, because maybe you don't. But this could signify a time where you need to go short on certain, stocks, or there's certain investments that you have. You need to divert your money, or you need to hold it in a way until you find out where is the best to put it. So there I touched on the magical origins and the theosophical origins of what we know today as psychotherapeutic relationships, and along the years the basis of psychotherapy, and the limitations that those things have in their ability to offer genuine transformation in a way that is safe. And alternatively, I touched on what was the original context, and it was that people would look at their own chart, and then they would build a relationship with the things that signify that which they need to learn, to heal, to correct, to remedy, or to build the relationships with the things that they're strong with. So it's like, to appease that which is malefic or detriment in your chart, and then to bring in the wisdom of what is best in your chart, and then it is something that people from therapy know. It is what are your strengths, and how do you bring your strengths to tackle your weaknesses, which is also limited, because there will be a need to also appease the weaknesses a little bit. And so while there is a lot of truth in psychoanalysis, there's a lot of merit in it, it is not by looking at one relationship, you cannot conclude on all relationships. And this is a big, poof, revelation here with Venus applying to opposite Uranus. A eureka about scorpionic relationships. So it's also psychotherapeutic relationships. And it's also relationships with our gods. It's also theosophies. What do we need to let go of? Maybe in our gods we also seek to poke and penetrate and be penetrated. It's not necessarily the right thing to do with them. Okay, that's something we all need to look into. So our relationship with anything that's scorpionic. So for you, maybe you have a Scorpio phobia, and you need to let go of this phobia, because you understand that you're, unless you're living in a danger zone to meet a Scorpion, you're very likely not to be interrupted by them, and then by you, or you learn something new and you're letting go of your phobia of Scorpios or scorpionic things. That can also be the case. What is your relationship with the things of Scorpio, and what do you need to let go of in your relationship? For example, it can be on the other way. I said Mars likes to protect, like to save things, like to fix broken things. You might be infatuated with people who carry these, scorpionic features, and then you wonder why. Just when things seem to get right, they seem to try to break you, and accuse them of being so and so and so and so and so, and they are, if they're not aware of this pattern and doing something, consciously to find something else to fix, that is not you or about you, but maybe for you. And you have been viewing these Martian figures as, they're so intimate, they're so close, they're so deep, they're so that, and you're like, but why are they behaving in this way? And because they seek to provoke, they want to tap on the web of your psyche, so that you transform.
and they tend to lend themselves into these situations more or less consciously, depending on the type as well. And so it could be, or alternatively, you could be viewing, Mars as this, ruthless, aggressive, war-mongering rapist, while in fact Mars only has these qualities, because Mars needs to be held by yin. It needs, yang needs to be held by yin. It needs to be in a warm Venusian uh, atmosphere so that heat will be potent and not too aggressive. But also, Mars is also the protector. Mars is also your handyman. Your inner handyman. You have Mars in your chart, regardless of what your gender is. It's your inner handyman, your inner problem solver, your inner, fixing things, saving things, dealing with resilience through crisis. This is a part of what your inner Mars rules. You have to see where it is and how do you best operate with that so that you don't step on anybody's boundaries, and you don't become that warmongering, aggressive type. So you need to see, okay, how do you tackle your anger? Letting go of old coping mechanisms that are not, and Mars and the Scorpio, you're very much able to do that. It might not be entirely pleasant, but you're very much able to deal with that. And that, Uranus can bring this eureka moment. It's very uncomfortable but it's right in your face, like it's in front of you. You can't miss it. That's that. Any more Venus Scorpio? Well, Venus is also appearance. You might be letting go of certain styles, certain colors, or you might be, maybe right now you're attracted to that type of deep red and black and so on, then Venus goes to Sagittarius and you're like, give me some yellow. So it can be, a part of what happens. It doesn't mean necessarily you say goodbye to your psychoanalysis and go short on your stocks. That's that. So that was my portion of Venus Wisdom on Venus Day. I'll see you in my next video. You can subscribe to my channel, click the button if you do like what you see and you want to be notified when I upload another video. You can also find me on Twitter, I'm Tali Shear, and on Instagram, Shelly Youngblood. And I am available for readings. And then currently it's $50 for a reading, and you have to contact me. I do not contact you for a reading. I do not contact you, okay? I've seen this happening everywhere with too many colleagues and people. I'm not that famous at this moment in your country, but if anybody presents to you as me and turns to you and offers you a reading in private, or I don't know, comments on your video and offers you a reading in private and does not links directly to this channel, not that I will offer you, a reading in private. This is fake. Don't give anything to them. Don't give any details to them. Report them. Block them. It's not me. Okay? So I know that this is an ongoing thing. In general, with astrology, with channeling maybe, but with astrology, I have there is no reason for me to turn to people that I don't know. It's not how I do my marketing. I actually make sure that I upload videos so that you get to know who I am, what is my attitude, what is my vibe, what is my energy before you book a reading with me, so that by the time you book a reading with me, you sort of
you know what this person, it's true that you're seeing me in, in my 11th, in my midheaven, and not in person to person, but still, it's like you get to see a bit of what my attitude is concerning readings. And by the time, it's like a funnel, by the time that you book a reading with me, you choose to book a reading with me. So there's a lot of disclaimers that I don't have to put there, because like you won't be surprised if I tell you, well, Saturn matures at 36 and Saturn is ruling your 7th house. Or all this outer planet is crossing your 7th house, and it will be, 2 more years, or stuff like that, because that's just me. But I will also point out to what you can do, what is positive, what is benefic right now. And yeah, it's just there is just no, in terms of satisfaction from my work, there is just no reason for me to turn to you with an offer when you don't know me, when you have seen maybe 1-2 videos of me, and when you are not the one who chose to contact me. No reason. I invite you to contact me if you want a reading. If somebody contacted you and offered you a reading saying it's me, Shirley Tali, the nude astrologer, my previous name was Channeling Science, I don't know what, report, block, it's not me, it's a scam. With that, happy Friday, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.